Fit check. Fit check.
Come on.
Well, I'm just casual Friday.
Come on, look at me. Look at me.
Casual Friday. "15 minutes ago, Detroit News sample 500 U.S. Senate Michigan Democratic primary 2026. Haley Stevens at 48%, Abdul El-Sayed at 41%, undecided and other at 10%. We'll flip that. It's expected. Good results for Stevens, although it is worth noting that Glenn Gariff has been consistently strong poll for her this primary. They've had her ahead in every survey they've conducted so far. I don't know their methodology, but I would expect this poll to probably underestimate youth turnout. But, of course, as is the case, every single outlet will turn around and aggressively posture as though this poll is the new lay of the land. Stevens is winning. Abdul's done. It's over. But it was expected. As I told you, McMorrow staying in the race was actually eating away at Haley Stevens' base a little bit. Okay? Stevens had a higher ceiling, unfortunately, because she has $50 million in outside expenditure. This is, unfortunately, a very real part of the problem. Okay? Is it hope that Obama would show up for Abdul? I don't think Obama will show up for Abdul, but it doesn't have to happen that way at all. Anyway, we're going to continue with this stuff, and then we'll get to Abdul. We'll get to the Abdul mania. Haley Stevens has 0 grand game, no get out to vote effort, nothing on the ground. She's relying on old people turnout in Detroit, which is historically abysmal primary turnout. I know. Zoran Bump could help him a lot. No. What are you talking about? Get real. Zoran is the mayor of New York City. Okay, sure, he's a very popular figure, but he's not going to fucking go out to push for a U.S. Senate candidate in Michigan, okay? Obviously, everything helps, but like, you know, be a little bit more realistic with your expectations. He's the mayor of New York, okay? Also, what you have to remember is this weekend, there are going to be massive events for Abdul El-Sayed. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders are coming to the state. They're going to do huge events starting tomorrow, I believe, all across the state. This is going to greatly boost turnout and also greatly boost his excitement, okay? It's going to show up in the polls as well. So just wait. Get your ass on a plane to Michigan. Dog, I'm going to Michigan. Just not this weekend with the AOC Bernie wave. I will be going to Michigan right before the actual election, okay? I'm going to be a part of the final push. As far as what you can do right now, if you're wondering, if you're worried, if you're concerned about Abdul's chances, because he has received an unfathomable amount of attack ads and smears to the tune of $50 million from outside expenditures from corporate PACs, many of which is coming from AIPAC, then the best thing you can do is phone bank for him. Okay? The Stevens El-Sayed contest tightens in a dead heat when considering primary voters who say they're definitely committed to voting for one candidate or the other, with 34.1% identifying as definitive Stevens supporters, with 33.7% as definitive or definite El-Sayed supporters. Bernie put the boss call to keep you in LA. What? What boss call? Brother, I have a life. Okay? Yes, Abdul El-Sayed is the Black Democratic primary voters, which are, again, depending on the demographics here, I suspect that if they are underestimating youth turnout, then yes, these numbers look like that. But if you actually look at Abdul El-Sayed's youth turnout, if you look at the black vote in the primaries, with the expectation that youth turnout will also increase, then these numbers look far closer to one another. Okay, it's all about how much they estimate youth turnout. If they underestimate youth turnout, then yes, Haley Stevens looks really good. I assume that given that Glenn Gariff has consistently polled Haley Stevens as higher than Abdul El-Sayed, they're probably underestimating youth turnout by a lot. Many polls have done so in this election cycle so far. That's the reason why Dottie Eliza was seen as a definite loss, challenging an incumbent. Haley Stevens always looks good. Okay, true. Yeah, Mayla Quiros was underestimated. Dottie Eliza was underestimated. Even Claire Valdez, to a certain degree, was tremendously underestimated. You have to remember that. No, this is not done pre-AOC endorsement. This is 7/8 to 7/11. It's recent. It's actually post debate. So it's the newest poll that we have on this race. We're gonna continue. Is there a Hasan Act Blue link for Abdul? Yes. Yes. Poll, where Michigan Democratic voters stand with U.S. Senate candidates Stevens and El-Sayed. Detroit News poll finds Senate primary race between Haley Stevens and Abdul El-Sayed is close. Michigan Democratic voters were asked in a recent poll if how they felt about the 2026 U.S. Senate primary election in the state. A poll conducted by Detroit News asked Democratic voters from across the state about their opinions on various topics. Name recognition-wise, Abdul El-Sayed is at 88.5%. Haley Stevens is at 90%. His favorabilities are 51% favorable, 15% unfavorable, 21 no opinion. Never heard of is at 10%. Don't know refuses 0.6. Never heard of for Haley Stevens is at 8. No opinion is at 20%. Unfavorable is at 21%. Okay. Definitely Abdul El-Sayed voters are at 33%. And overall, Abdul El-Sayed is at 41% and Haley Stevens is at 48%. Okay. This is entirely propped up by outside expenditures. Like, I don't know how to explain this to you. Haley Stevens is a non-entity. Okay? Haley Stevens is not a real figure in the state. She has no real ground game. She has no ground game whatsoever. I believe there's only 3 virtual events that they've put out in the state after they got called out for having 0 get out the vote operations and having 0 ground game. Haley Stevens is entirely backed by AIPAC and other corporate PAC expenditures. She is just she is the perfect demonstration of what is wrong with American politics. Okay? There's no other way to put it. She is the perfect depiction of everything that is wrong with American politics nowadays. A person that is not touring the state, a person that's not going around and actually doing events with the voters, a person that's not conducting any town halls, nor is she doing any media. She's done very little media. Because why should she do any media when the media is bought for? That's it. She's mass blasting mailers and she's mass blasting television ads. That's it. You get to do that when you have $50 million. Abdul's grassroots fundraising on the other side has reached $4.5 million. It's actually an incredible amount. Okay? Abdul is actually doing a phenomenal job fundraising through independent small donors. The problem is it's fucking virtually impossible to combat with $4.5 million, $50 million. Abdul is getting outspent 10 to 1 in certain markets. 10 to 1. 8 to 1 in others. He's currently number 1 in Act Blue, and he's in a primary. James Tallarico is already the established candidate. Annie Andrews is already the established candidate. John Ossoff is already the established candidate. Sherrod Brown is the established candidate. Abdul El-Sayed is in a Democratic primary right now. And despite the fact that he's in a Democratic primary currently, he is the top fundraiser this week. But it's not enough. Who's on air in the Michigan Senate Democratic primary from @Impact Politics? UDP, AIPAC subsidiary, spends $4.6 million for Haley Stevens. Abdul El-Sayed has his own personal campaign, spend $489,000. A Stronger Michigan is another pro-Stevens PAC that is spending $299,000. And Fighting for Michigan is a pro-El-Sayed group that has spent $65,000. UDP is not just pro-Stevens. United Democracy Project is an AIPAC subsidiary. Okay? Speaking of mailers that they're distributing, I finally gotten, I finally got that coveted HASANABI mailer. Here it is. AIPAC is mailing this to Dem primary voters in Michigan. Abdul El-Sayed embraced the podcaster who said Jews are inbred and that America deserved 9/11. Whatever his feelings about the Middle East, someone running for the U.S. Senate for Michigan should be able to unequivocally condemn a conspiracy theorist who denigrates women, Jews, and black Americans. Instead, Abdul El-Sayed brought him to Michigan to campaign with young people on campus. What is the lie in this piece, says Neera Tandon. I said, I never said Jews are inbred, but you might have fried decent chunks of your brain with a devastating wine pharmaceutical combo, so I won't hold you to it. Didn't you say Orthodox Jews are inbred? Because that's in your TNR interview. Is it okay to say any groups of Jews are inbred? Feels like a sign of weakness in your argument that you're doing as ad hominem attacks. You build the lie. You keep repeating it long. You keep long. What? No, it's not. I checked. Yeah. You build a lie. And then you keep playing a game of telephone around this lie. And at a certain point, it just establishes a fucking truth. So now Neera Tandon can turn around and say that. No, I didn't even say Orthodox Jews are inbred. I was talking about fucking settlers. Okay? And it was a pejorative that I used towards all matter of racial supremacists, ethno-supremacists. It doesn't fucking matter. When a lie is repeated enough times, it becomes the truth. And that's where we're at right now. What is this? Their fucking exclusive senior advisor to Melania Trump, Mark Beckman. I believe that our first lady, our current first lady, Melania Trump, is the single most consequential first lady. With the first. Jesus Christ. In any case, it doesn't end there. All of these people that I've shown you on the timeline, there's a good reason for why I've been just like constantly criticizing them, constantly railing against them. Because Neera Tandon is at Center for American Progress. Okay. And she is at the heart of the anti-Abdul attacks. She's propping up Haley Stevens. She is at the heart of this war that's waging within the Democratic Party, where Center for American Progress, which should be called Center for American Poo-Poo, okay, the P should not be for progress, let's be real. Center for American Pieces of Shit is one of the vanguards against the outsider insurgency candidates that are coming out, okay? Not your best, whatever, shut up. Center for American Poopy. That was really hard of you. I know. I'm going beast mode on Center for American Pieces of Shit. I'm requesting a refund. No refunds. You're a grown man, dog. I am a grown man and an international shipping magnate. Are you at risk of you yelling at me? You got to close some of them tabs, HASANABI. I know I will. I'm going to clear them after this. Anyway, the candidates will get results for Michigan Senate. The candidate will be a fighter. The standard of Donald Trump is at 38%. Haley Stevens will not do that. The candidate that represents my values at 19%. The candidate that can win in November and beat Mike Rogers at 25%. So those two are the top priorities. Abdul can do both. Haley, I call into question if she can at all. Anyway, so AIPAC mailer comes out. I said, I retweeted, I said, they did this with Zoran, Daria Eliza, Chris Rabb, and with Maylon Kiros. Anyone who criticizes Israel will be branded a terrorist by the apartheid nation that murdered 20,000 children and is currently working to merge our military with theirs. This is how they buy their seats. They also did this with Abdul El-Sayed, Peter Stern says. She isn't doing it now. Why was she changing the Senate? Exactly. Exactly. A great question. The question should be asked, do you feel like anything positive has come out of the current establishment Democrats? Less Obama connections that haven't materialized in the last decade or so, and more so a connection to Chuck Schumer is a necessity here because Chuck Schumer is the one who's pushing Haley Stevens. Let that not be forgotten. It's Israel that is pushing Haley Stevens. This person is proving that polls bias. Detroit News endorsed Stevens, and Glenn Garrett polling has been way more favorable to her than other pollsters this year. Well, you can't say that it doesn't spook you. It motivates me. We knew your corrupt, genocidal corporate overlords would try to buy this election. Abdul's the top grassroots fundraiser in the country right now and is being outspent 8 times by AIPAC. Progressives don't have the money, but we have the people and we can outwork you. Exactly. Remember, they have the money, but we have something far more important than that. We have people, okay? They can mass blast smear campaigns all over the TV, okay? They can try to freak out the older voters to try to get them to go out and vote, okay? Negative campaigning often depresses voter turnout. This is something to remember. So all of those negative ads that they're spending against Abdul, we can combat that. We can use that to our advantage. Okay? There is nothing more powerful than making a phone call and having a real person-to-person conversation with a likely voter. Okay? We can use the ads for name recognition and then fight back against those smears and turn that name recognition into something that is objectively powerful and positive for Abdul El-Sayed. But the only way we can do that is if we are disciplined, if we're organized, and if we continue doing these phone banks. Okay? The only way that we can fight back against $50 million of ads, 40 million of which coming from AIPAC and AIPAC subsidiaries, is if we go out and door knock. Okay? That's it. Abdul El-Sayed has reported over $4.5 million raised in the second quarter, the biggest quarterly haul of the campaign since its launch. This is good. This will allow Abdul's team to be able to put ads out that combat the misinformation. This will allow Abdul to be able to pay canvassers, okay? Pay for the system that allows people to go out and canvass. It's very important. Do not forget, organized people beats organized money. They got the money, but we got the people. Haley Stevens has nothing. No real motion, no real excitement surrounding her campaign, no real policies whatsoever. The only thing that I've ever heard her consistently talk about is, saying that she loves Michigan. That's true. She does say that a lot. And also, she loves the nation state of Israel and wants to defend it. Okay? In a since-deleted site for a prior campaign, Haley Stevens said the U.S. relationship with Israel must go unquestioned. Hard to overstate what a radical stance this is. To her, it's illegitimate for voters to even question U.S. support for Israel. She is an extremist. Go run for office in Tel Aviv if you really love Israel that much. Get the fuck out of the Michigan Senate race. Ridiculous. Chatter has some success phone banking. Yeah, well, phone banking, I found that the average Michigander doesn't know how bought Haley Stevens really is. I use the fact that she's 100% corporations in a trench coat, and they see she'll always prioritize her donors. Then I lean into Abdul's strength. Almost always works. If you're going to choose to accept money from any corporate PAC that'll throw it your way, we'll use that to our advantage. Thanks. Abdul's strengths. Since the libs are being purposely dense about character counts, surprise, their actual policies: abolish ICE, Medicare for all, money out of politics, no super PAC money, especially AIPAC, end the genocide, expand the courts, free education. More on his website. What is this? I'm not phone banking for an avowed supporter of capitalism. Okay, man. Well, then don't. Okay, suck my dick. What do you want me to say? You see $50 million coming from every corporate PAC known to man, flood the marketplace with smear campaigns against this guy, and you don't think that that's a threat to corporations? You think they're just fucking doing that for no reason? You think they're just doing that for fun? I'm glad that you maintain your morality, chatter. I'm glad that you actually are principled. The principled stance here is to say, well, sorry, this guy who has an identical platform to Bernie Sanders doesn't say he's a democratic socialist, so he's not getting my support. Sometimes it's good to not only look at the policies, which are plenty with Abdul's campaign, and see if you identify with them, see if you appreciate them. Because remember, this is a Senate seat, okay? This has national implications. This is implications at the federal level. It's the upper, it's it's the Senate. It's the upper chamber. It's far more consequential than the House of Representatives in a deep blue district. This is a statewide race. We have to pull out all the fucking stops. I won't phone bank until I see Abdul tax returns. Okay, calm down. But aside from the campaign, aside from the background, aside from the policies that Abdul is representing here, you have to sometimes look at who the enemies are. You have to look at who the enemies are. Who are the enemies of Abdul El-Sayed? Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, pharmaceutical corporations, big businesses like the monopoly utility structure that exists in Michigan, DTE, okay? AIPAC, and numerous other AIPAC shell corporations. These are the people that are dumping boatloads of money into the race to make sure that he doesn't fucking win. Okay? Health insurance companies. Why are they doing that, you think? You think they're doing that just for funsies? Like they love wasting money? You think rich people just love dumping boatloads of money? Hopefully, we will make sure that it's a waste, for the record. We will make sure it's a waste by fighting back, by phone banking, by making sure that we draw tremendous turnout from young voters and even older voters as well. I thought you guys cared about making sure that we had anti-genocide voices elected into the upper chamber nonetheless, where he would be even more alone. Abdul El-Sayed is anti-genocide. If you care about that, you got to drop this whole bullshit Like, oh, he's not calling himself a socialist. All right. Fine. In any case, El-Sayed will report over $4.5 million raised in the second quarter, biggest quarterly haul of the campaign since his launch. Is the only candidate in the race not accepting corporate donations. Grassroots donors have flocked to Abdul's campaign, repeatedly placing him in the top 5 for weekly campaign donations on ActBlue. A spokesperson said in a statement, the playbook. El-Sayed's sum came in prior to State Senator Mallory McMorrow's exit from the race. The campaign had its best single day number following the second debate last week, notching $150,000 in donations. Haley Stevens does not need any singular donors, individual donors. Abdul won't release his tax docs because he doesn't want the world to know how much dark money he's gotten from the world shipping power of HASANABI from Singapore. Okay, dude. Yes, it's true. Anyway, who are your sympathies with more? New poll that came out from YouGov. 27% say Israelis, 25% say Palestinians, equals say 24%. With Democrats, they say 36% with the Palestinians, equals at 31%, Israelis at 10%. With Republicans, 58% say with Israelis, 18% say equal, and 6% with Palestinians. Equal is a dumb choice. Should the U.S. provide military aid to Israel? When you ask all people, the number is at 44%. Among Democrats, the number no is at 54%. Among independents, the number no is at 57%. And with Republicans, the no votes is at 25%. Obviously, Republicans are omega cuck. They're a part of a cult. And they're, just violent people in general. So it shouldn't come as that much of a surprise that this is the case. Having said that, no aid to military, aid to Israel, no military aid to Israel is at 44% overall, with yeses at 33%. Also, new poll shows that 65% of Americans want the Iran war to end ASAP. Only 15% support continuing the war. Every audience measured is in favor of ending the war. This includes MAGA at 51% and Trump voters at 49% that want the war to end immediately. Has Abdul said anything that would make that chatter think he's a capitalist, or are they purely being bad faith? Yes, he has literally said he's not a socialist, that he is a capitalist. He said that to me too. He said that to me sitting in my room, in my home, sitting right here a year and a half or 2 years ago almost, or a year and a half ago at this point. Those are his own words. He said that on this broadcast too. I think it's cringe. I disagree with him on that, but I'm not going to let that disagreement be an impediment to electing someone who is by far one of the most, quote unquote, radical, the most left senators that we will ever have. Hasan, why do you talk like that? Why am I talking differently? I don't think so. There's the other side of this Abdul El-Sayed story. And that is, of course, and we're going to get into it further. A lot of these tweets from Emily's List and other pro-Israel voices on here came out before the AIPAC ad was announced. Did they get a heads up? As I noted 2 weeks ago, the attacks from Shannon Watts and Emily's List staff seemed timed up just before the first AIPAC ad launched. The new ad actually quotes Shannon Watts and Emily's List as fodder. Here's a conversation between known Zionist Shannon Watts and AIPAC-funded Emily's List Jessica Mackler. Both of them are quoted in this ad painting Abdul as sexist. Yes, they were absolutely organizing. I mean, it's very clear. Neera Tanden, too. They were organizing ahead of time in direct collaboration with either the Haley Stevens campaign or maybe AIPAC, which, by the way, Haley Stevens' campaign and AIPAC, they're one and the same.
I know you all have endorsed Haley Stevens in Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'm getting so much grief over that. Again, I think it's a great example of a show horse versus a workhorse. It's not easy to stand up as a woman for other women.
I think there's something unbelievably sinister about making it seem as though you're doing this for quote unquote feminism. There is something so nasty about being in favor of a candidate that is almost entirely propped up by pro-Israel dollars. To claim that you're doing that because of not just your own personal career ambitions, but because you're doing that for feminism is disgusting. Okay? Nasty business.
And especially online, like the blowback is swift and furious. And that's obviously sexism. Like, how do we?
It's not sexism to say, Shannon Watts, that you made a career out of trying to combat school shootings from taking place in the United States of America. And now you've decided to take your career to a new level where you are actually allowing more school shootings and school bombings to happen elsewhere. Okay? I've said this from the start. I stand by it. It is one of the nastiest things I've seen this person do. Okay? What a nasty individual she is. Garnered so much goodwill by being an anti-school shooting advocate, an advocate against gun violence, only to turn around and demand more gun violence and bombings to take place in places like Iran, Lebanon, Gaza. That's what it means when you're pro-Israel. That's what it means when you join forces with AIPAC. How is this any different than joining forces with the fucking NRA?
How do we do this online? Push back on these narratives that aren't true about who we are and what we.
Yes, this attack on Abdul was coordinated. Steven sent out this memo here a few days earlier. Yeah, this is her red box basically. Okay. This is their memo. This is how they coordinate. This is a loophole to coordinate with PACs. This is how it's done. Technically, until the recent Supreme Court decision that also made it legal to coordinate with PACs and campaigns, you had to do a red box. You had to do a messaging blast, technically, to interested parties. There are real vulnerabilities for Abdul El-Sayed in the Michigan Senate primary, and only once Democratic voters learn more about his record, they move away from supporting him in the primary election. This is bullshit. He's vulnerable for having backed the uncommitted movement that helped Donald Trump win Michigan, and the Democrats also do not like that he has a history of disparaging women, in particular women they know and like. El-Sayed was a prominent backer of the uncommitted movement. This is what they've been doing. Okay? This is what they've been doing. Over and over again. Abdul El-Sayed, remember, literally endorsed Kamala Harris before Haley Stevens did. Okay? Can you stop using the word nasty to describe a woman? Is this 2016 in a Trump-Hillary debate? Wait, what? Dude, what am I allowed to say? What am I allowed to say about a fucking pro-Israel consultant? What words? Can you tell me what the appropriate confines are? Can we do that? Meanwhile, these guys are literally being like, see, Abdul's Muslim, dirty Muslim, who may or may not have voted for Kamala Harris. We don't know. You know how those Muslims are. Really? That's it. You don't see me fucking complaining about that shit. What do you want me to do? I know this is how it is. If you disagree with a powerful woman in politics, that means you're a sexist, right? That's what it means. Name. What is this? Name what you find it is that she's doing that's nasty. I already did. Being a fucking pro-Israel stooge. It's the nastiest version of politics while also tying that up to femininity and feminism. What the fuck? God, I hate this shit. Now they're going to say even your fans call you out for being sexist towards Stevens like Abdul is. I know. And guess what? They're right to do so because some of you are fucking brain dead. Okay? Some of you are unbelievably brain dead. It's true. Ridiculous. El-Sayed has a history of insulting women. He called Michelle Obama's ideas uninspired and ineffectual. Like, what are we doing? What is this weaponization of the most hollowed out version of white feminism? You kind of curated the chat, though. Oh my God, I'm going to fucking lose it right now, dude. This is my least favorite version of chat culling that I every now and then have to do. When a dumb fuck comes in here in the process of me disciplining my chat to do a little bit of community rearrangement, and they go, well, you did this. Well, don't worry. I'm curating it right now. You got the ass whooping first. Does anyone else want it? It's time in DSA convention video. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
We should advocate for, and in real life. Like, how do we make this shift when women only hold 25% of the 500,000 elected positions in this country?
Like every time we can demonstrate that a woman can win in a place that someone told us that we couldn't, we are carrying that forward.
Like Emily's List is a great example of this, where they shamelessly utilize womanhood and femininity and feminism, like girl boss feminism, to oftentimes prop up some of the biggest male monsters out there, sometimes against female challengers. Okay? Just remember that. Shannon Watts owes her career to the patron, Michael Bloomberg, who harassed women, paid out settlements, then barred them under NDA so they can't even discuss it. And Haley Stevens endorsed them for president of the United States. They are cynics. They don't believe in what they say. Always remember that. Yeah, does Shannon Watts support DSA women, Daria Liza, Claire Valdez? Does Shannon Watts support Maylok Quiros? Does Shannon Watts support any of the candidates that we propped up, that we fought for? No, because this is an ideological battle. These people, it's not even an ideological battle. It's just about money, okay? Are they defending Cori Bush against Wesley Bell? No, they're not. Do you want to know why? Because they're cynical charlatans. They're disgusting operatives of a dying system where all they care about is where their next paycheck is coming from. And they know that the establishment Democrats are who is going to give them money. It's that simple. And they clearly don't shy away from taking money from horrible groups like AIPAC or horrible people like Michael Bloomberg. We know this shit was always going to be difficult. We have to exercise messaging discipline in this process. Okay?
But I also think, it's why, even though anytime you say even just a simple positive thing in some of these races, you could end up being eviscerated online for it, that we keep showing up and doing it, right? And we need to keep showing up and doing it because that is so critically important to our ability to push past this. Otherwise, we're just handing it over to them, right? We're kind of like, here's the cesspool of the manosphere and you can take it. We have to be willing to stand up and say, no, these attacks on Haley Stevens are sexist, and we're not going to let that stand, even when...
Yeah. Any criticism of a corporate stooge, an Israel stooge like Haley Stevens, is actually sexist. You know what's not sexist? Just voting for Haley Stevens and supporting Haley Stevens. That's great. Great argument. Thank you. Yeah, we're actually both quoted from tweets that say sexism has been wielded against both McMorrow and Stevens in this race. Neither of us mentioned El-Sayed specifically. My tweet wasn't used in context, and I wasn't asked for permission to be included. And you'll notice that in this interview, we don't mention El-Sayed at all. Where did my replies go, Shannon? I edited my posts, so they're gone, but feel free to repost, and I'll respond again. Bernie Sanders is sexist. Oh my God. You're in the fucking AIPAC ads, Shannon. Ironically enough, there was another candidate that tried to do this in the exact same state, and she lost. Her name was Hillary Rodham Clinton. What are we doing? This kind of stuff is so unbelievably insincere. AIPAC is spending more than 8 times as much as the entire pro-Abdul El-Sayed campaign, and Haley Stevens isn't even on the air. I'm not even sure I've ever seen anything like this in a Senate race, says Dan Pfeiffer. Like a total non-entity. The only time I can remember something like this happening was with Joe Biden. In the Super Tuesday victory that came after a insane barrage of free media that Joe Biden received from the predictable South Carolina victory in the primary. The weekend from the South Carolina primary victory into Super Tuesday was so unbelievable. I believe there was tracking on this. It was like $8 billion worth of free media that he received. Every single outlet was running 24/7. Joe Biden is the Joe Biden comeback. The Joe Biden comeback. He's going to destroy Bernie Sanders finally. Or maybe it was not 8 billion. Sorry, it was 2 billion. It wasn't 8 billion. It was $2 billion. And then that coasted Joe Biden into an easy victory in Super Tuesday in states that he had never even gone to. Remember when is the lowest form of conversation? What? Oh, yeah? What about pro-AES super PACs? The actual dark money. How much is our revolution spending on him? Dan Pfeiffer says, this includes everyone on the air this week, including any dark money. Like, these people are bots, man. They hear the talking points, and then they immediately lean into it. It's so strange. It's from The Sopranos. Okay, whatever. I don't care about that right now. Speaking of which, if you're frustrated by all of this, here's a funny story. Breaking: Haley from Michigan is paying influencers $1,500 per post and asking them to sign NDAs. David says stuff on IG. I received a confidential influencer brief from Haley Stevens' Senate campaign. The interesting part, it says it's covered by an NDA, but I never signed one.
It's a confidential document. It's covered by an NDA. The only problem is I never actually signed an NDA. So, shh, let's not tell anyone. Let's go through it together. It's an influencer brief from the Haley Stevens Senate campaign in Michigan. Right at the top, it says that the rate for this video is $1,500. So apparently, that's the going rate for a do-nothing candidate. Okay, so let's quickly get to the goal. So our job is to educate.
I didn't even think about that. All the women that were running, they said nothing about Quiroz, Bush, Daria Liza, Valdez, or any of the women candidates that lost their primaries. What did they say? Nothing about those candidates? Or did they tweet about all the attacks Daria Liza got during her primary? No, of course not, dude. Of course not. If they ever talked about any of those women candidates, it was usually in the negative because these guys are bought and paid for. The whole like feminism shtick is nothing for them but a goddamn weapon to wield cynically. That's it.
And show Michigan Democrats that Haley Stevens is leading the way to fight against Donald Trump and MAGA. Okay, so let's see what we got. So the first instruction says, share a proof point where Stevens has stepped up to fight MAGA. So sure. So just like Trump, Haley Stevens says that we can't afford universal health care, affordable housing, student debt relief. But when Congress had a chance to put limits on how long the president could keep U.S. involvement in Israel's war, she voted against those limits. Meanwhile, American taxpayers have paid at least $29 billion with a B supporting Israel's war. Funny how we're always broke until it's time to fund another war.
Great fucking, by the way, great video from this guy.
So the next instruction says, make this personal. Why does stepping up to MAGA matter to me? This is fun, isn't it? Not signing an NDA and blowing it up? Love it. So it matters to me because I believe politics should be about earning people's support, not renting it for $1,500 like Haley over here. So if you're really the fighter in this race, you shouldn't need to pay influencers to convince people.
That's crazy. Okay, you have to look at this. Sorry, I have to show you this right now. It's so funny. Okay, so she propped open the door. She propped open the door and started barking at the door because I got food delivered. She's still staying in here, but she's monitoring the situation. She's making sure the situation is good and monitored. She thinks she's a fucking guard dog. It's crazy. It's crazy. This dog is out of her dang mind. Can I get chopsticks and the no, the small cup sauces that I have for like the small cup sauce that I have in the fridge, but chopsticks for sure. Situation has been sufficiently monitored by Kaya.
You should be able to beat Abdul on your record. Abdul is talking about healthcare, affordable housing, getting money out of politics, and taking on corporate power. Haley's campaign is sending out influencer briefs that require an NDA. So now on to my favorite part. You do not need to endorse Stevens. So think about that for a second. They're basically saying, we don't need you to believe in Haley. We just need your followers to think you do. They're not buying your vote. They're leasing your credibility. And that's really why I wanted to show you this document. Because if your record speaks for itself, you don't need influencer briefs. You don't need talking points to sign an NDA, a rate sheet. You need supporters. That's the difference. Vote Abdul. He is a person that will represent you, not corporate interests and not Israel.
Hell yeah. Beast mode. Beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, beast mode. Anyway, get ready for the most annoying victory laps that Haley Stevens will absolutely take over this new poll that came out. If they haven't already. The campaign hasn't put that out yet. They're desperate. This TikTok is anti-Semitic and misogynistic. Yeah. Anyway.
Donald Trump today welcoming Iraq's new prime minister to the White House
a
day after he proposed his latest solution to the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz. Blockade Iranian ports, guard international shipping, and charge a 20% levy on all cargo passing through. That last bit not surviving into a second day. The president posting, I've decided to replace the 20% United States reimbursement fee with trade and investment deals that the various Gulf states will be making into the United States. Those investments will be massive. From the Oval Office, further elaboration. A round of calls from predictably unsettled allies in the Gulf made the difference.
I put it out yesterday. I thought it was good. I was called by different people, different countries, kings and emirs and all of the people that we all know and we all love. The Gulf states are going to invest a tremendous amount of money into the United States, and that was very satisfactory to me. I think it's actually much better.
It certainly has the advantage of not obviously breaking international maritime law, but for now leaves the US and Iran in continued conflict over control of the strait, a non-issue before the war, now the central issue, left unresolved by last month's Memorandum of Understanding between the two countries. This, one of two Emirati supertankers Iran struck last night, accusing them of turning off their transponders using an unauthorized route. In all, Iran's reported to have struck 3 ships last night, a Dutch-Norwegian chemical tanker in the Arabian Sea and the 2 Emirati oil tankers as they exited the strait. 1 Indian crew member killed in the strikes. Before the war, an average of 130 vessels crossed daily. Since the signing of the MOU in mid-June, crossings did rise, peaking at 77, but the recent return to violence reversing those gains. The impact spreading from sea to air, with the EU's Aviation Safety Agency today advising against flights over Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE and the Gulf of Oman. Iran today launching missile attacks on US bases in Bahrain and Jordan. This afternoon, air defenses also triggered in Kuwait. It followed an overnight wave of attacks by the United States on targets across Iran, and there have been more through the day, still some way short of the kind of escalation required, in President Trump's words, to take the strait and guard it, with all the political as well as military risks as US midterm elections get ever closer.
It demonstrates that the war has not gone the way that President Trump wanted it to. Now what we're hearing increasingly from the White House is that one of the goals of the war is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that was not a goal of the war at the beginning of the war because it wasn't a problem at the beginning of the war.
And with the strait backing up once more, the economic consequences starting to build. Oil prices, UK government borrowing, both seeing renewed spikes this week. Last night, Iran's parliament held its first open...
I think you would be better equipped to argue against insincere weaponization of so-called feminism used to shield reactionaries if you had better theoretical feminist framework. This is not a dig, and I know, and I always bang on about this, but I'm sorry, but I don't know why you don't take it on. I feel like you were designed in a laboratory to make me fucking mauled and yell at you so that it would get clipped out of context to make it seem like I'm an insincere misogynist. Yes. Thank God the Israel supporters over at Emily's List have figured out all of the theoretical framework of feminism, and that's what they operate out of. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on. You clearly understand what's going on. Why is it that this is deployed every single time? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they have no other options. Adam Johnson has, the obvious right approach here. Good retort. The thing one has to understand is that Bernie Bro playbook on El-Sayed is being deployed because it's all they have. They know the Stevens campaign is zero juice, and they're getting hammered from the left, so all they can do is contrive an ostensibly quote-unquote left-wing attack by throwing out baseless charges of sexism, and there exists a turnkey Zionist pseudo-feminist apparatus to just do this. That's what Emily's List does. Emily's List took $500,000 from AIPAC this cycle, and it's not because AIPAC is deeply committed to feminist praxis. It's because their only play is picking off suburban women to the cause of genocide by painting El-Sayed as a shifty, marauding terrorist cartoon. They have nothing, no vision, no moral narrative, just Walmart donations, AIPAC money, and a 2016 zombie neoliberal PMC identity stuff. It's the most cynical posture that I thought we had moved beyond. And I think it requires a lot more closer examination by the base when they don't have enough time to recognize what's going on. I worry that these narratives will still dupe enough people. But there are still dumb fucks, at least even in my community, that fall for it. So we will get girl boss war criminal feminism until further notice. Like, think about this line of attack. It only works against the left. Can you imagine Haley Stevens coming out and being like, "You're being sexist" to the Trump-backed Mike Rogers in the fucking General? Are you insane? Mike Rogers would put up LeBron numbers. Okay? Like, this is not a way to campaign. The only time this works ostensibly is in a Democratic primary. That's exactly what Hillary Rodham Clinton did, and that's exactly why she fucking lost in Michigan.
Session for 4 months. For all the unified chants of death to America, continued reports of senior-level disagreements on whether still to pursue the deal with the US. Few doubt, though, that Iran is prepared to pay a high price to keep the key weapon this war has uncovered, control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Beautiful. Is it good? House. It's a great place. Well, thank you very much. We've had already.
I don't care about this.
Hi, and welcome to Michigan Matters. You don't need me to tell you we have a red-hot U.S. Senate race going on in our state. Today, we're going one-on-one with the two Democrats still in the race, Representative Haley Stevens and Abdul El-Sayed, who are facing each other in Michigan's August 4th primary. Plus, the roundtables waiting in the wings to talk about that race, the gubernatorial contest, and other things. If politics is your cup of tea, you've come to the right place. Let's get started.
Okay, I love this. I'm already locked in.
From CBS Detroit, this is Michigan Matters with Carol Kane. Michigan Matters is brought to you in part by Cure Auto Insurance.
And we're joined by
God, local news is so fucking awesome.
Abdul El-Sayed, who is a Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, who hopes to win your vote in Michigan's August 4th primary. It's great to see you.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
It's been very busy since the last time I saw you up at Mackinac Island at the Chamber's Policy Conference.
Slightly different view, but yeah.
Well, this is an incredibly busy week for you. And let's talk about a couple things that happened this week. First of all, Mallory McMorial announced that she was suspending her race and pulling out. Were you surprised by her decision?
I mean, we were. She was running an extremely strong race. She looked like the candidate to beat just months before. I'll be honest with you, I don't spend as much time thinking about the horse race of it all, though. You know, there are a lot that she and I agreed on, some things that we disagreed on, but she made her case and fought a great campaign. I reached out to her. You know, I've been in the position where I've lost a primary before. I know how that feels. And so a lot of what we're doing right now is reaching out to the people who she inspired to show them that so much of what she and I agreed on is so much bigger than any of the things we disagreed on, and inviting them to join us.
And now that it's a two-horse race with you and Haley Stevens, and Mallory's no longer part of the equation, are you adjusting your campaign in any way, and your strategy in these last few weeks of the primary?
So I'll tell you this campaign has been more than a year in the making. We've been to 110 different cities, 450 public events. And across them, I have a simple message. I want money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all. But the contrast couldn't be clearer. I'm somebody who's never taken a dime of corporate money to run a campaign. My opponent in this race is dripping with corporate money. All of the ads that you've seen in this race have been brought to you by a super PAC or another, mainly paid for by AIPAC. One of them, literally the goal is to send your tax dollars abroad to kill other people rather than to invest them here at home, to invest in us and our kids.
Let's talk, Doug. Let's move on here. You have a distinguished career in public service, but have yet to be victorious when your name's on a ballot. What's going to make it different this time from your perspective?
Well, I've learned a lot, right? 8 years changes somebody. I've grown up, had kids. I've got 2 kids and a mortgage now. My kids are 8 and 3, and they teach you a lot about patience. I've also realized that Michiganders are less interested in the critique. They're a lot more interested in the solution. So if you're somebody who wants your politics to work for you, if you're somebody who believes in unions, like the unions believe in me, the UAW, AFT, National Nurses United, if you're somebody who believes that we need to take on the oligarchs and the monopolies that force us to pay more for the stuff we got to buy, if you're somebody who believes that our money should be spent here on us and you believe that you deserve guaranteed health care, then this campaign is for you. But I'll also tell you that the mood has changed, right? 8 years on, people are just angrier. Things have gotten harder. It's harder to afford your groceries, harder to afford your rent, harder to afford to believe that you could ever afford a home, harder to believe in the school that you send your kid to. And I think in this moment, people are looking for something that does not look like business as usual.
Let's talk about a couple different issues. Data centers, very divisive. Some people say it's a great job creator, and Michigan ought to be embracing more of them. Others say it's going to hurt the environment, cause people to spend more and get money for energy and water and the such. Where do you stand, and where do you stand on regulating them?
There's a real worry about data centers. And you think about the AI that they're bringing in. I've been very clear about both regulating data centers and regulating AI. When it comes to data centers, we propose what we call a terms of engagement. If they're going to come here, they've got to follow the following terms. Number one, do not increase our electrical rates. Number two, you need to improve our reliability. As we talk about folks literally living under 5 days of darkness now because DTE can't figure out how to keep the lights on. No touching our water. If you promise jobs, they better be good union jobs, and there needs to be a very
clear...
So
you're in favor of regulating them?
I'm in favor of regulating. But it's also AI. Right, we've got to be serious about...
Yeah, that's a huge issue here, and I know we've got much more to say. I know viewers watching this are going to want to hear about more. Let's talk about one of the cornerstones of your campaign, Medicare for All. How are you going to do that? And what one thing can you quickly say where it's not going to drive up costs? How will that be funded?
Well, we're going to pay for it, but we're going to pay a lot less because we're not paying a CEO $18 million a year. We're not paying for that army of billers to figure out how to allow doctors and health insurance to crosstalk. And guess what? We're not going to pay for it in the form of $225 billion in medical debt, which is what we hold in this country right now. This will be cheaper, more durable, and without the pain or the worry about I can't see a doctor, which is too much of an issue for too many people in this country.
You represent the more progressive wing of the party, been endorsed by AOC and Bernie Sanders, UAW. Some people think after whoever wins in the primary, the Democrat left standing, taking on Mike Rogers at a progressive, is going to be a harder fight.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think the real fight is not between progressive or conservative or moderate. I think it's people who are locked out of our politics and the people doing the locking out. Michigan is a place where we went for Bernie Sanders, then Donald Trump, then Joe Biden, then Donald Trump again. And we know Michiganders, they're steady Eddie. It's just that they keep going to the buffet and not finding what they want. So if they know that their opportunity to support somebody who's not bought off by a corporation, who is actually trying to fight for them, I think they're going to choose that opportunity every day.
We're winding down here just real quickly. I'm going to give you 20 seconds here to just tell people.
Goat status, beast mode. He's very good. He's very good. He is fast, efficient, straight to the point. I mean, what else can you say, man? He's just fucking good. That's why I have consistently said Abdul El-Sayed, I think as far as his background goes, is perhaps one of the most impressive candidates in this cycle. Like across the nation. If you think Zara Mamdani is good because of like his messaging discipline, because of his charisma, because of the impassioned pleas that he can make, and be able to like communicate as a earnest fighter for justice, Abdul has that too. Straight up. And unlike Zoran, he also can put up 3 plates on the bench. So
people why they should vote for you. I'm going to give your opponent, we talked in the next segment, Haley Stevens, the same opportunity. You got 20 seconds here.
I'm the only candidate in this race who's never taken a dime of corporate money to run a campaign. I'm the only candidate who's standing up to guarantee you health care through Medicare for all, who understands that we have to abolish ICE, who's done work in the bowels of government in Detroit.
Bro, Zoran
and
can't
Wayne
even do
County.
one play.
If you want somebody who is a public servant fighting for you and not the corporations who are buying the campaign, not for AIPAC, who's buying their campaign, I hope that I can earn your support to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all.
Abdul El-Sayed, thank you so much for joining us. This certainly is a race we're going to be watching all the way through here to the end here.
Appreciate you, Carol. Thank you.
Okay, and keep it right here. We're back with more Michigan Matters after this. And welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're now joined by Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who's hoping to secure your vote in the U.S. Senate Democratic primary taking place in just a few weeks. And my, oh my, what a campaign this has been. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Well, the big news coming out was that State Representative Mallory McMurrow decided that she was dropping out, leaving the field of 3 down to 2. My question, were you surprised by her decision?
Look, I think Mallory McMurrow ran a very dedicated, engaged, and spirited race, and I respect her decision. And her supporters are welcome into my campaign. I really believe that together we can beat Mike Rogers, tell a story for Michigan, and push back on some of these abuses of power that we see coming out of Washington right now.
How does her exiting the race impact you and how you'll approach the campaign in the last few weeks of this primary?
Well, look, I'm continuing to get out there to share my message and my story for Michigan. I was born here. My parents are small business owners, and they taught me that value of hard work, and that's what motivated me to work on the U.S. Auto Rescue. This is what's always motivated me to tackle tough issues facing Michigan, fight for us, and win for us. And boy, do we need some.
I don't know why she talks like this. I know that that's like a point of contention. It's becoming a point of contention. Like, is she exaggerating it? Does she think it makes her sound more like folksy? Because it does come across as like too exaggerated. And apparently she didn't used to sound like that.
I'm Haley Stevens, and I was Chief of Staff to President Obama's Auto Rescue. We saved over 200,000 jobs and strengthened Michigan's advanced manufacturing.
Like, that sounds like a normal Michigan accent.
I'm Haley Stevens, and I was Chief of Staff to President Obama's Auto Rescue. We saved over 200,000 jobs and strengthened Michigan's advanced manufacturing economy. That's our future. I'm Haley Stevens, and I was Chief of Staff to President Obama's Auto Rescue. We saved over 200,000 jobs.
I'm beginning to believe the Haley Stevens body theory. The Haley Stevens body double theories. Like, I feel like she went to Israel and they cloned her. And this is they brought back a new Haley Stevens. That just like sounds different, looks different. Am I crazy for this? Look, I mean, look, she sounds normal here.
Strengthen Michigan's advanced manufacturing economy.
You better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of sick it to them. Because that's the Michigan way. Right? And you better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of sick it to them. Because that's the Michigan way. Right? And you better believe I'm
like, what the hell happened when she went to Israel? They must have body swapped her, bro. Anyway.
Who wants to fight for us right now to lower costs, to lessen our dependence on China, and to create more of those good manufacturing jobs so people can live and achieve the American dream right here in Michigan.
People view governors and Congress people as politicians who can deliver, if you will, for citizens as far as resources from Washington. My question, you've been in Congress. Talk about real quickly what you've been able to bring back home from Michigan. And as a senator, what more impact could you have?
Well, my elixir for success as a congresswoman for Michigan's 11th district has always been working alongside local elected officials, our mayors, our township supervisors. I've gotten funding into White Lake, Michigan to revitalize their civic campus, monies to create the Livonia Senior Wellness Center, money in Pontiac for youth recreation, and that MLK bridge. And the reason why this is important is these are your tax dollars. And when I first ran for Congress, I noticed that our district was getting the short end of the stick. We weren't getting our fair share of federal tax dollars. As senator, I want to dial that up and take this elixir of success to all counties, to all governments in Michigan, and to all people, because there is such opportunity in Michigan, mid-Michigan, which is growing and ripe for manufacturing expansion and investment, the incredible agricultural community. We want to get those goods sold. We not only want to tell our story, but we want to make sure that those federal tax dollars that our small businesses pay, that our hardworking Michiganders pay, that they work for us. And that's also why, Carol, I feel so strongly about securing those earned benefits like Social Security.
You know what's crazy? Like, first of all, you're not running for governor. You're not running for like comptroller. You're running for Senate. Okay. And I guess she's really honed in on like what she's going to do specifically for Michigan as a senator from Michigan, which is fine. I mean, obviously senators have tremendous power, but it's all a fucking lie. Because she's literally talking about how to better use our tax dollars. Dog, you want to send it all to Israel? What the fuck do you mean? You think the best use of American taxpayer dollars is to aid and abet the Israeli genocide? What the hell?
And Medicare as well.
Right. And I know there's many issues here. One that's gained a lot of attention, could be a huge opportunity, huge detriment, depending on your point of view, data centers, depending on how you want to say it. Talked to CEO of DTE, Joy Harris, about this. We talked about the costs of these as they're ramping up, being paid by the data center company. However, a lot of consumers and communities are concerned long-term with costs and things like water. What's your quick view on data centers?
Look, I think we need to have honest conversations with the owners of these data centers about cutting a better deal for Michigan consumers. You know, these bills that continue to go up and up and up, it is not working for us. And in fact, I just had a mom the other day.
Okay, that's got to be on purpose. She's got to be doing it like to come across more sincere, right? It's just very weird.
Consumers, you know, these bills that continue to go up and up and up, it is not working for us. And
what is this? Oh yeah, they were no longer they met. You know what's crazy about this? Dana Nessel officiated the wedding. And they literally met at a campaign fundraiser. Like they met, I think they met at like a super PAC event or something. Anyway, this stuff is annoying. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I don't think we should be digging into this shit. I just like, I think people are going to use people coming after her accent as like a sinister line of attack about her person or anything or some shit like that, when the entire conversation should be around her being a stooge for Israel, her being an empty suit for every corporation that will buy her seat.
In fact, I just had a mom the other day tell me that at the end of the month, she's left with nothing. I had another friend say they were at the grocery store and the person in front of them broke down because they couldn't pay their grocery bill. So we have got to lower costs, and I have the plan to do that. And that's one, by making sure that these utility companies, if they're raising rates, sorry, you're going to have to lose your federal funds. These data centers, if they're investing here in Michigan, they should be guaranteeing that no one pays more than a certain amount of money for their energy bill, for their water bill. I do a ton of work with the Great Lakes Water Authority. And man, I want to get them the monies, the federal monies, to replace their pipes.
And we're running really short on time here. Real quickly here, you've been endorsed by Jennifer Granholm, Debbie Stabenow, AG Dana Nessel, Emily's List. You've got a lot of
Brenda Lawrence, yes.
You got a whole.
Okay. Abdul went in person. And her asks of Abdul was, how are you going to pay for Medicare for all? I know she was cordial. But the questions were, how are you going to pay for Medicare for all? No Israel question for Haley Stevens, really? Like not even a little bit about how her campaign is being propped up by $50 million? How is that? How is that for fucking Michiganders? If Michiganders love her, why is it that the only people that are funding her campaign are corporations that are fucking over Michiganders? Where are the small dollar donations coming from all across Michigan? Why isn't she in Michigan?
Whole list of people there. You and as your opponents called you, you're the establishment candidate. How do you see that playing out in August, given your candidate, your opponent rather, is and your opponent on the progressive side? Real quickly, we got about 10 seconds here.
Look, I've been effective. I've delivered for Michigan. All those people have fought for Michigan and won for Michigan. That's what this moment is about. That is what I've been consistent about on this campaign. Michigan knows me, trusts me, and knows I will work for them in the U.S. Senate.
You got 20 seconds here. You got 20 seconds to tell people why they should vote for you. 20 seconds. I'm going to time it here. Go.
Well, your vote is sacred, so get out and place it, but know that I would be humbled and honored to earn yours, to continue to tell our state's great story in the U.S. Senate, and to make sure that we are heard at every step of the way and that these abuses of power end.
Haley Stevens, thank you so much for joining us. We are certainly going to be paying close attention to this race as it plays out in August into November here. Again, thanks so much for joining us. And we're back with more Michigan Matters right after this. We're back with the roundtable's been waiting in the wings, watching closely as we welcome Susie Avery, former chair of the Michigan Republican Party, Marvin Beatty, Detroit champion, community activist and businessman, and making her debut is Lauren Gibbons, senior Capitol writer at the Bridge, Michigan. It's great to have you with us and great to have all of you with us.
It's great to have her here. Yeah, terrific.
Here we go. Well, my, oh my, this, it's been quite a week in politics here. Let's start where we started the show from. Let's talk about this U.S. Senate race. We're now down to the two candidates in the August 4th Democratic primary. Lauren, you cover politics. Mallory McMorrow announced she was dropping out. Who does that help between the two with Haley and Abdul?
You know, I've talked to a lot of people about this, getting their opinions, and I don't think we know just yet, although we did see some folks coming out of the wings who had previously been on the sidelines when it was a three-person, now coming out endorsing. I think Emily's List, a very influential Democratic organization coming in support for Stevens, Attorney General Dana Nessel, for example. So we did start seeing some Democrats who hadn't yet made a decision start making a decision. I think we'll continue to see that.
So when it comes to the voters who are going to support her, and just kind of looking at the selection here, you have almost now a battle royale between the traditional base of the party and also with the more progressive wing of it here. Marvin, you're obviously you've been supportive of Democratic candidates through the years here. How do you see that race?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's going to be a tight race, but I think it's important that people understand the dynamics of each one of these candidates. And when you look at Mr. Abdul and you ask yourself, what happened in 2024?
Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no. What is he going to say? Oh, no.
Stood down throughout most of the campaign until he realized that I better be a Democrat. And voted for Kamala. And
you are a bad person. I mean, he's a fucking casino owner. Jesus Christ. I don't have it in me. I feel like this is going to break my little heart watching this shit.
And the uncommitted people that followed him continued to stay uncommitted. They didn't change their program because he quietly went and voted. So I contend that that is probably the biggest concern that I have about this gentleman, because, look, you can't be a leader only when you want to be.
Okay. Susie, you are obviously a card-carrying member of the Republican Party here, and we know Mike Rogers in this race is running uncontested. He's sitting there, and I don't know if he's doing tea and bonbons, but...
as far as I'm concerned, he won that debate. I always like to talk about, especially what you're talking about, to quote badly Margaret Thatcher, that, you know, the reason I don't like socialists is because eventually they run out of being able to spend other people's money. And so with that in mind, I think the Democratic Socialists that have taken over so much of the...
You're talking as if Abdul has won this thing. Haley?
What a great panel. AIPAC casino owner and Republican.
Oh, I'm not. I'm talking about that part
I don't think she's bad. She just didn't say anything about
party that was able to get the people out to their nominating convention, the early nominating convention, which basically were kids out of Ann Arbor who lined up and paid their $50 to become a Democrat in March. I mean, that's the backstory. But the story is that he supposedly has this excitement. Whether or not he has that in August is another story.
Who is the strongest candidate to take on Mike Rogers in the fall campaign between those two?
You know, we've seen a lot of polling that shows Haley Stevens polls better with independents and independents.
Abdul El-Sayed literally outperforms Haley Stevens in every other poll that has come out. Oh my God. Oh my God, what is happening here? Oh my God, I'm so upset. I'm so upset because I love local news. I love local news, and this sucks. I love local news so much, and it fucking pains me to see this shit. Yeah, Glenn Garrett has been Stevens' best pollster, likely due to his tendency to oversample the Detroit Metro. It shows her lead growing 5 points since McMorrow's exit. However, it's also their first poll where she doesn't hold a clear lead among definite voters. Okay? I mean, I know corporate news kind of sucks. I mean, local news kind of sucks, but it's amazing how much Michigan Senate is a repeat of the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. Abdul El-Sayed, Bernie, Medicare for All, Haley Stevens, Biden, Michigan Manufacturing, Mallory McMorrow, Warren, comprehensive plans, white yuppies like her, but nobody else. I guess it's not wrong. It says already voted as Stevens +9. We need to start phone banking ASAP. Michigan Senate crosstabs by Detroit News. College El-Sayed +7. No college Stevens +22. White El-Sayed +12. Black Stevens +46. Already voted Stevens +9. Election day voters El-Sayed +19. Still holding on to their absentee ballot. Steven +27. Union El-Sayed +5. Glenn Garrett pollster El-Sayed, for instance, is disproportionately relying on younger voters, especially those under 55 who are white and have a college education. And Kazuba questioned whether there's enough voters in that category to overtake Michigan's older voter population. The difference between Michigan is our electorate is just so much older than, New York, Kazuba said. He's got to broaden out his appeal. He's doing reasonably well in outstate Michigan. Why does Haley Stevens do so well in comparison to Abdul El-Sayed with black voters in this poll? It depends on who they're actually sampling. If they're oversampling older voters, if they're oversampling Detroit and older voters, obviously that's the reason why Haley Stevens is doing better than Abdul El-Sayed with the black vote. The other reason is because the older black voter block, specifically Detroit, specifically Wayne County, are some of the most resilient, some of the most reliable voting blocks, old heads, and they go for the establishment. They go what the TV is saying. They go by way that the rest of the boomers go. That's it. Unlike white boomers, though, at least they go for the Democrats as opposed to going for the Republicans. I'm hitting up my sources in Detroit, and you were right about younger people. Even older people keyed into the machine politics, have little enthusiasm, and are easier than ever to win over. Only black people who are writing for Stevens are the actual machine. Debunking the Obama endorsement line is super important in winning them over, though. Pointing out that it was a decade ago and the UAW endorsed Abdul also works as well. Hell yeah.
This elected official is taking too much money from a foreign lobby group. That's not 60 and 70-year-old people, although I know that is their concern as well. That is the youth that's saying that. So we can't just write them off. We do have to uplift them. We have to create a path. So my question for Gilchrist and Kenny, what is y'all's path for the youth?
By the way, insane drip. Just pointing that out. Not relevant to the conversation. This is the Donovan McKinney. This is the Donovan McKinney event with Chris Rabb. Very excited about this, by the way. Obviously, Donovan's the GOAT. As a black man, I'll tell you this. Older black voters would rather vote for a white lady than an Arab. The division is real. Don't kill me. It's the truth. No, that's not true. No, that's not true. It's not racialized animus. It's not racialized animus. There is a racial tension associated with it, but it's not like, I hate Muslims type shit. First of all, I've already explained this. 1/3 of the black population in Michigan is Muslim. Okay? Just, remember that. 1/3 of the black population in Michigan is literally fucking Muslim. So that's already stupid. That's not the real tension. The real tension is that, especially in Michigan, there's a lot of vote bashing. There's a lot of blaming the voters. Kamala Harris is a black woman. So obviously that also plays a role in this as well, where some of the black voters who fucking understandably despise Donald Trump, who are still very much anti-Israel, by the way, look at Dearborn voters as a reason as to why Donald Trump became president. That's the problem. They don't hate Muslims. No one in Michigan hates Muslims, really. I mean, there's a lot of Muslims out there. So it actually, yeah, it's the Obama ad. That definitely had an impact. Let's be real. The Obama ad definitely had an impact. The other thing is like the uncommitted one, where Haley Stevens and AIPAC are very deliberately trying to get the black voting bloc in the state to be like, oh, he's just like those Dearborn Muslims who didn't vote for Kamala, who voted for fucking Donald Trump. And that's where it's coming from. But they do love Israel Trust. I've talked to some of these old heads. Yes. Some old churchgoers do fuck with Israel. But again, as far as approval ratings for Israel goes, black people by and large are far more anti-Israel than any other racial demographic in the country. It's not even fucking close. I guess with the exception of Muslims. There is not a single issue. There is not a single issue where black voters are not far more woke as a whole than any other racial group in the country. Okay? Nothing. There are certain churches that might be like weirdly pro-Israel, like certain black churches, but by and large, black churches don't fuck with Israel either.
Hey, first of all, thank you for coming. I said trust him because I meant that. And, whether you talk about the policy priority, when I say trust young people, let me be a little more specific. We cannot ask people to get engaged.
For the record, the idea that like black voters are monolithic is wrong as well, even though black voters in the primaries tend to be much older, just like the rest of the voters in the primaries oftentimes are much older, but young black voters are unbelievably pro-Abdul, just like all the other younger voters are.
And they get mad at them when they get engaged. So if you say you want people to be part of this process, you say you want people to be active and advocate and organize, you can't get mad at them if they tell you what they want. Right, that part. So if you say that you want everybody to have health care,
Wait.
And then young people say they want.
Dude, why is it that every time I talk about like black issues, there's always a chatter that gets mad at me because he agrees with me. Like there's always a chatter that'll be like, bro, how fucking dare you, dude? Oh shit, the one time, nah, not you. Oh, okay. It's always so funny. Talking to that other dude. Oh, I got it. Last time I went home to my famous church, the pastor was making very direct metaphors to say that Israel was doing is fucked up and needs to stop. And she was going after whether the state should exist. Yeah. Black churches go beast mode. It's not even, I mean, I've been to the African Methodist church here. They like black pastors go hard. Okay. Like, it's not even they go super hard against the American government. They go super hard against Israel. They go super hard against American militarism in general. By and large, I mean, liberation theology obviously is a big part of this culture. So, this doesn't mean that there aren't like Zionist black churches out there. Of course there are, but
everybody have health care, then I ain't gonna get mad at nobody for saying everybody should have health care, because I agree with that. If you say that you don't want people to be the victims of genocide anywhere on this planet, then we should be okay to say that and declare that. So I think the way that when I say trust, I mean that. I mean that we have to make sure we understand where the energy is and then help people recognize that they are powerful. And so therefore equip them to be able to use their power to make things happen, to change the trajectory of our community.
Unless they're Nigerian. Okay, chill. YNG Mecca says, unless they're Nigerian, then it's a racist who could suck off Israel the best. First of all, Christians only. Okay? At least in my experience with my group of friends, from what I have seen personally. It's very limited, it's anecdotal, but there's also polling to suggest that you aren't wrong. Okay? There's polling to suggest that YNG Mecca is not wrong. Nigeria is, with the exception, what was the other country? The one that the other country that was like literally, we will go to war to defend Israel. I think it was Ghana, maybe. Am I crazy? No, it wasn't. Which country? I remember looking at the Pew. No, was it? No, it wasn't Ghana. Fucking Uganda, not Ghana. No, it was Uganda. I'm being racist. I'm sorry. Kenya is another country that's like very pro-Israel, and Nigeria is the most pro-Israel. Clip it. Okay, stop. My goat. Stop. Not while my goat is on screen. Chris Rabb says the black radical tradition is not new.
Listen, there's this false dichotomy between young and old, whether it's in the black community more broadly, that older people are more conservative. And there's some truth to that. It's a stereotype. It goes to the bell curve. 80% may be more moderate, whatever. But there's...
So you hate us Nigerians? What? No, man. What the fuck? This is why I'm your only black chatter. Every black chatter of mine literally comes up to me in public and says, I'm your only black chatter. And this happens all the fucking time, okay? And it happens in the chat all the time, too.
Always this tradition, the black radical tradition, is not new. It is a long-standing tradition. And the people who are elders, and if you want to include me as an elder, as a Gen Xer, so be it. We're the ones who are talking about King. King had a very strong anti-capitalist analysis. He was anti-militarism, anti-imperialism, anti-poverty. These are things that our own Democratic Party today will not speak out on. So this is something that transcends generation, it transcends ethnicity, it transcends geography. My brother Justin J. Pearson, who's running in Tennessee, they tried to cut up his district. It went from 65% black to 32% black, and it includes a town in his new district that is the birthplace of the Klan.
Yeah, it's Uganda. Uganda is preparing to deploy troops to Gaza at the request of U.S. President Trump. The state-owned newspaper New Vision reported Monday. According to the paper, Trump asked President Yoweri Museveni through his board of peace to contribute to the International Stabilization Force tasked with maintaining order, protecting civilians, and supporting aid and reconstruction. Museveni reportedly agreed the initial deployment of about 500 Ugandan troops is expected to establish a logistics base on the Israeli side of the Kerem Shalom crossing before any move to Gaza, New Vision reported. No, I'm your only over 50 woman black chatter. You are not. You're actually wrong about that. Like 100% you're wrong on that front.
He told me when I saw him in Chicago
Yes, Nick Pollum's mom.
recently that 130 white people showed up in Pulaski, Tennessee to support this young brother. We need to get away from these binary assumptions that all white people this, all black people, all old people, all whatever. We can't do that because there's too much nuance in our humanity, and we understand that we can reach people where they are, and we can have progressive.
New HASANABI head was not aware of your DreamCon game. Wait, what? Speaking of DreamCon, the legendary Kami Mami's emote is still not added to the Hasan channel. Yeah, this was fucking awesome. DreamCon was so dope. I should have gone this year, bro. I fucked up. Hasan, I have the clip. In the spirit of DreamCon being held, this is the cutest clip I just discovered of Hasan Piker. They were so excited to meet him. I was excited to meet them.
All right. Here you go. Hi. Oh my God. Oh, of course. Oh my God.
Also, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
This
oh
is
my
insane.
God, you guys are amazing.
I need to get out of here.
Okay, you want
I shouldn't be in this photo. Help. 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 They love him. Look at how happy he is. I wish I was him.
Game is game, baby. Hell yeah. It's called Aura. Back when I used to show my shoulders like a slut. We used to have fun around these parts.
Oh my God.
I didn't go to Anime Expo either. No fun. I'm Mr. No Fun, dude. That's just how it is. Mr. No Fun. All right, I'm skipping the rest of this Haley Stevens thing.
We're going to begin with.
All right, we'll talk about the man that was shot by ICE, a little bit more detail into his background. It's unbelievable injustice.
The demand for answers in Maine after the second deadly shooting by an ICE agent. This one, the last 2 weeks. The last person to be killed, his name is Johann Sebastian Guerrero. He was a Colombian immigrant. An official says he was not the target of the operation. It led to protests and new allegations of reckless behavior by federal agents. They have shot and killed at least 8 people since President Trump began his immigration crackdown. Lilia Luciano is in Biddeford, Maine with the latest. Lilia, good morning to you. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Gail. Well, the governor of Maine called the way immigration enforcement is carrying out its operations, quote, reckless and haphazard, as the community here in Biddeford continues reeling from this tragedy, the second deadly shooting by ICE across the country in less than a week.
Anger and shock in Biddeford, Maine on Monday after a man was fatally shot by ICE in his car. The victim is Juan Sebastian Guerrero, an immigrant from Colombia.
A 28-year-old man was killed by a truck while fleeing immigration agents in St. Augustine, Florida this morning, officials said. It's the third death involving ICE this week after agents shot a man in Maine yesterday. Jesus Christ.
According to a source with knowledge of the investigation. This doorbell camera video captured the sounds of gunshots on Monday morning. This video obtained by CBS News shows the victim's car, a white sedan, turning slowly in circles at an intersection. Then another vehicle appears to intercept the sedan, stopping it. ICE officers then approach the car and pull Guerrero out from the driver's seat. This video shows agents surrounding Guerrero laying on the ground, as this picture shows multiple bullet holes through the sedan's windshield.
They pulled the body out in the corner.
Corey Pullen's pawn shop and laundromat.
Yeah, he was dead.
That is across the street from where the shooting.
They basically handcuffed the corpse. They slammed his lifeless body his lifeless head into the pavement too.
Unfolded, and his security camera recorded parts of it.
You believe the car was rolling because he had already been shot?
Yes.
Yes.
We believe. We don't know.
Immigration advocacy groups say Guerrero was 26 years old and had both a work permit and a social security number.
This was a father. This was a person who was trying his
Yeah, in front of his wife and kids.
to create a life and provide for his family. Overall, there's kind of just a general sense of confusion, pain, and anger, both from the community and then also a sense of loss and hurt from the family.
In a statement, DHS said ICE was conducting targeted surveillance on the last known address of an illegal alien. They say, quote, an illegal alien departed the residence in a vehicle and later attempted to flee, and fearing for public safety, an officer discharged his weapon.
They sort of made it unclear, but the person they were after was not the guy they ended up shooting.
No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA.
The community.
Bro, this, by the way, this is Maine. Okay? But this is what I'm talking about when I say these people are like the olds are radicalized. Okay? Oh, the olds are radicalized. The boomers, the grandmas, the grandpas. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like, they're always out there, bro. They're always out there.
Maine is now demanding answers, with this happening less than a week after ICE officers fatally shot 52-year-old Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Houston, who DHS officials said also was not the intended target of that arrest.
And there are growing questions about the sequence of events because the officers were not wearing body cameras. Advocates are questioning how can there be accountability without that kind of evidence. Jolene.
And we are back with breaking news. Reuters.
Yeah, and then this led to ICE suspending vehicle stops for U.S. immigration enforcement.
Reports that ICE is suspending vehicle stops for immigration enforcement.
I guess the silver lining here is the recognition that this stuff is totally untenable. So the administration is far more responsive to the negative feedback, the negative pressure. Because, like, they didn't do this. They didn't do this at all, right? They didn't do this for the longest fucking time. It's temporary, but still. In the last year, my boomer mom has hit more IRL protests than me. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, I think older people also want this change. That's why I feel a lot more confident about these left flank candidates running. White nativist screed from Waters while talking about this murder? Oh, no.
And they actually want to abolish the agency that's doing the work. So we can't work with these people. We can't work with these people, and we know why they're doing it. We used to win landslide elections in this country. Remember Nixon? Remember Reagan? 49 out of the 50 states. Why? All of a sudden, we bring in all this foreign-born population. Democrats are all of a sudden competitive. They didn't change how persuasive they were. They just imported everybody that lived outside of the country into the country. And now it's closer. That's why they want them here, no matter if they commit crimes or not.
Dog. 49 state landslide Ronald Reagan did amnesty. Fuck you mean, dumbass?
And they actually want to abolish the agency that's doing the work. So we can't work with these people. We can't work with these people, and we know why they're doing it. We used to win landslide elections in this country. Remember Nixon? Remember Reagan? 49 out of the 50 states. Why? All of a sudden, we bring in all this foreign.
Are you ever going to go on Fox News? No, none of these fucking outlets will ever have me on.
They are a massive driver of deportations, and this comes after ICE agents shot and killed another person, the second killing in just 1 week. Johann Sebastian, the 26-year-old Colombia native killed in Biddeford, Maine yesterday, was a delivery driver, husband, and father. According to a witness who spoke with MS Now, Sebastian's wife and young daughter were seen crying at the scene. Hours after the shooting became public knowledge, DHS released a statement saying ICE was conducting surveillance on a migrant facing a final order of removal when a person departed the residence in a car. ICE agents attempted to stop the vehicle, they say, and DHS says an officer opened fire, quote, fearing for public safety. But they have not provided any evidence to support those claims. The driver, who we now know was Sebastian, was hit by gunfire and later died. Maine Senator Angus King says DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullen has since told him that Sebastian wasn't the intended target of the operation. A nearby surveillance camera captured video showing the moments after the shooting. And I have a warning, it is difficult to watch. Federal agents can be seen opening the car door and dragging an unresponsive man onto the ground, pulling him further away from the car, then appearing to secure his hands behind his back. Let's go right now to MS Now's Will McDuffie. He is there in Maine for us, and immigration attorney and former ICE chief counsel Veronica Cardenas is with us as well. Will, tell me what you're hearing from people in Maine.
This is a sleepy town about 20 miles south of Portland. This happened on a hilly intersection in a residential area at 7 a.m. People were waking.
Oh my God, I forgot about the Glaze Yingst interview with Donald Trump tonight.
Up, they were getting ready for work. I mean, the fact that this would happen is unfathomable, but at the same time, people are upset here because this is not the first time we've seen an incident like this, and also ICE presence in Maine really ramped up earlier this year, so they're familiar with the presence of ICE officers here. And here at this park yesterday, there was a protest with a ton of people, including Senate candidates who showed up, and they actually walked up the hill behind me to a local Susan Collins office to protest. Now, I did speak to a couple eyewitnesses, including one gentleman on camera. Let's hear what he had to tell me.
I heard the kind of shotgun, and I just came out to see what happened, and first thing I saw was him and a lot of ICE agents over there, and I saw his wife and his daughter crying. That was kind of weird, scary.
How has it made you feel?
I mean, they are killing.
Did you see Nick Shitley go to an old folks daycare and check the center trying to uncover more fraud and couldn't understand how 7,000 people weren't just there at the time he went? Where was the fucking adult daycare? Madison Square Garden? The fuck do you mean? 7,000 people? Was it an entire city block? Is that how big the daycare is? The adult daycare, by the way, is just an old folks' home.
Or people,
right? Isn't that what it is? Like a nursing home. It's like senior care for the most part.
Now, to give you an idea of how close that gentleman was to the scene, I mean, right outside his house is a makeshift memorial right now for the victim, and that gentleman, he knew the victim. He said he was a family man, had a beautiful family, a wife and a young daughter, both of whom he said were on the scene yesterday. That's how he was able to identify them. He said the victim was a delivery driver. He reportedly was driving to work. And Tony, it's just so tragic all around.
It's incredibly heartbreaking. Veronica, I want to get your reaction to what we just heard from that man there. As he's saying basically that it feels like ICE, that federal agents are going after us, his community. Given what we've seen happen in Maine, what we know is happening in Texas right now, there is continued outrage and protests over the killing of Salgado Araujo there. I want just your reflection on what's happened over the past 7 days.
Yeah, and I've frustration. We heard Lorenzo's son state that he went to lawyers before this incident happened to see how he could best comply. And when we look at Joanne, one of his last statements was that I tried to stop. Have a very vulnerable immigrant community and their allies who are trying to comply with ICE directives, who are trying to comply with what ICE wants so that these situations do not happen. And there's so much focus on communities, right? Like even in the statement that was put out, this illegal alien, that is not true. This person was going through the process, Joanne. He had a work authorization. He was going through the process that the administration has laid out for non-citizens to go through. So despite all of that compliance, we have DHS not being reckless at this point, but being very deliberate in focusing on the numbers at whatever cost and whatever comes with that. And I thought that, you know, the death of Renee Good, Alex Preddy, there was a new Secretary of State.
And without cams that are required, it doesn't mean anything, dude. Come on. Police already have body cameras. It doesn't do shit. Body cameras. Dude, body cameras. Fucking the dickhead that killed Renee Good literally had a camera, a phone camera in one hand. He was filming himself murdering her. Body cameras are just a talking point for people to be like, oh, we're doing something. It's ridiculous. Almost all of these, almost